In this video, we are going to create a profile screen where we'll be displaying all of the user information within our profile screen, and also the user will be able to edit those details as well, like the name, email, and also the password. And also we'll be displaying all of the user orders that the particular user has ordered and not any other user. Okay, so we'll be doing that one by one. So in our earlier videos, we have already created a controller such that the user can update the details, right? So we have already created that one. So where is that? Yeah, so the update user profile, where we'll be sending all of the different information, like the name, email, if the password is changed or not, so all of that. And we are yet to create one for the orders, okay, to get the particular users orders. Okay, so let's go ahead and build that one. So now let's create a function to get all of the user orders. So I'm going to call this get user orders. Okay, and set this to an async function within the async handler. Right, so now let's go ahead and create our orders and set this equal to await order, this order model dot find. So we are going to find many orders, right? So we will get in the form of array. So find one is just one particular element within our database. Okay, so if you want multiple items, we just need to use find. So we need to specify based on what do we need to find, that is based on the user who is logged in. So how do we get the logged in user? Remember, we have set a property within our auth middleware, so whichever the user has logged in based on the particular token. So this has a property called user, which we actually set, and we are going to get the underscore id of the user. Okay, so this will fetch the particular user, which since the user, whatever the user has ordered those products, we are going to find that. So if we have a look at our order model, also we have set a reference to the user model, where we can get to know which user has ordered. And let's finally send the response dot status, let's say 200 dot json, and going to pass in the orders. Okay, so this doesn't actually have to be we don't have to handle any errors, since we already know that there are some orders within our database. So if there's no orders, we will be getting an empty array. Okay, so that's also a good response. So that's done. Now let's export this. All right, now let's create a route for this. So let's go to our routes and order routes, and over there I'm just going to duplicate this and going to create a route for slash let's say user orders. Okay, and this is going to be get user orders. Okay, which we are going to call that, and also the user needs to be logged in to get all the user orders. Okay, so that's done. And now let's go to our front end and make a call to this and display it on our user interface. So now let's go to our front end, and within there I am going to the users API slice, and going to create another endpoint to make a request to update the details in our database. So that is going to be a mutation. So I'm going right below this and calling it update user profile, and set this to a function which takes in the builder dot mutation. And this is going to be an object where takes in the query, and we'll be receiving the data from the front end, right? So what are the details that needs to be updated in the database? So we are going to specify the URL, that is going to be uh, users URL, and slash update. Okay, so that's what we created in our previous video. And now let's specify the method that is going to be post, and finally going to pass in the body data. All right, so that's done. Now let's export this, use update user profile mutation, so it shows you the suggestions. So that's done. Now let's go ahead and create one for the orders as well to get the specific user orders. So I'm going right below this and creating one for, so it's not here, actually it's here, and we are going to call it get user orders and set this to builder dot query, since we are only getting the data and not passing any information. So we are going to by default make a get request, and we are going to pass in the query and set this to a function which takes in the URL. Okay, so the URL which you are going to specify is the orders URL. Orders URL slash, remember we set the route to update profile, not update profile. So it's what is that? So actually I forgot. It is update user orders. Okay. All right. So now let's go ahead and also set the same property. Okay. So I for caching. So and now let's finally export this. Use get order, what is that, you get user orders query, and yeah, we are done. Now let's finally go ahead to our user interface, and let's create one to update the user and also display the orders of the particular user. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create a screen to display the profile. So I'm going to create a file called profile screen. All right, so now let's create a function first. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create a route. uh, Again my PC is so low for some reason. This is not good. So now then let's go to slash profile. Okay, so this needs to be inside a private route, which means that the user needs to be logged in. Okay, so now let's uh, import the private, so what is that, profile screen. Okay, so now let's save this and go ahead and have a look. Okay, so now let's go to our profile, and there we see our profile screen, so everything's working fine. Now let's go ahead and print out our JSX to display user interface, and also the to update the order, the user details, and also the display the user orders. Okay, so let's go to our application, and within there I'm going to the profile screen and pasting it some JSX in order to save some time. So I'll also be having this within our JSX file. Okay, you can just find it over here. So all of these are plain JSX without any functions or any state written, so you can just easily copy and paste it. Okay, so for now I'm just going to copy and paste. Okay, so I'll just replace this with our JSX, and there we go. So we have everything very easy to understand. Okay, so we are basically displaying 1/4 of the width to display the particular user's information that needs to be updated, and rest of the things we are going to display all of the user orders in the form of a table. Okay, so these are just nothing but input fields which we will be controlling it using the useState hook locally within this file. And next we have this table, okay, which we will be displaying all of the orders, and within this table body we are going to loop through all of the users order items and display it in the form of a table. Okay, so nothing much new. You can just go ahead. If you don't understand, you can just hover on something, you will get the particular property that is being used. Okay, so if I just go ahead and type this all out, it will take a lot of time, right? So now let's have a look at our UI. So there we have it. So we have first of all our profile, which will be displaying the name, email, password, and confirm password, which we have in our local storage. Okay, so whatever the user credentials are there, right, or the name, email, and the password, except the password, we will be displaying that. And if the user can change the password by entering these fields. Okay, and also the orders will be displaying in the form of a table. Okay, so that's done, and now let's go ahead and grab our state and just interpolate all of those values within this UI. So first of all, let's get the user info that we have in our state. So going to destructure user info, so that is coming from our use selector hook. Okay, so use selector and passing in the state, and we are going to get the user state. So state dot user, and now we just need to create four pieces of state in order to handle the form inputs. So let's create one const, let's say name, set name, and set this to use state. Okay, and that's auto imported, and the default value of this is going to be the information that is stored in our local storage. Okay, so that whenever the user opens the profile screen, it should automatically display the user's name and the email. Okay, so user info dot name. Okay, so and then we also need the same for the email as well. Okay, and also I'm going to duplicate the same for the password and confirm password. So let's replace this with email. All right, and then the password, and we are not going to show the password. Okay, so we are just going to keep this in empty string, and then confirm password. And this too is going to be an empty string. All right, so that's done. Now let's go ahead and add in into our form fields. Okay, so first of all, the name. So I'm going to give this a value of the name, and giving an onChange handler on change, and set this equal to a function which takes in the event parameter, and we are going to call the set name, which we are going to pass in the value of e dot target dot value. Okay, so nothing much, we have already done this before, so I can just copy this and paste it for the email and password as well. Okay, so that's done, and now let's finally give a function such that when the user submits the form, it should basically call this particular function. So let's call this handle user update or update profile, and set this to a function which takes in the event parameter, and we are just going to prevent the default behavior of the browser by e dot prevent default. Okay, so that's done, and now let's go ahead and like give this within the form and on submit handler, and not like this, on submit, and set this to handle user update, sorry, update profile, and also the same when we click on the update profile button. Okay, okay, so that's done, and now let's check it, what do we have within our UI. So you see the name and the email, which is auto filled by your user state. So if I even refresh this, it is going to show the same name and email whoever is logged in. Okay, so now let's go ahead and handle this form submission, and also the to display the orders as well. Okay, So now let's destructure few things from our use get order get user orders query, so that we actually created here. So I'm going to destructure few things from the use get orders query, get order details query, which I'm going to auto import, and also the same for the update user profile mutation. So okay, so we need to also call this, and over there we are going to get the data. First of all, since this is a query, we get in the form of data, and we can rename this to user orders. And next we are going to get the is loading state, and finally the error if there is any. Okay, and from our use update order profile mutation, we need to destructure the update user function. Okay, so here we'll be passing all the user information like the name, email, and password within this handle update profile. So next is we are going to destructure the is loading, and then the if the is loading, and that's it. Okay, so we can rename this to is updating, since these two names conflict to each other. So is updating. Okay, so that's done. Now let's go ahead and handle this. Okay, so let's check if the password and the confirm password matches each other. So if password does not equal to confirm password, then we are going to return right away, okay, with a toast message. So toast dot error saying passwords do not match. All right, do not match. And now let's finally return. Okay, we do not want to execute anymore. And if the passwords match, then we are going to create a request to the backend. Okay, so we can just receive whatever we get from the backend, so with response, whatever the response it gives. So then we are going to await and call the update user function, so which is asynchronous. So we just need to make this async. And now let's call the update user function, and this takes in the particular id that the user is logged in. Okay, so that we get from the user info. So let's call this underscore id. So that's what we specified in our backend to have a field name of this. So that is going to be user info dot underscore id. Okay, and then we are going to pass in the name, email, and the password. Okay, so and finally let's unwrap. Okay, so that's done. And you remember we also need to update the credentials in our local storage as well once the user updates the profile. So for that, you remember we created one reducer to set the credentials in our local storage. So let's dispatch that action. So I'm going here, initializing dispatch. Use dispatch, and now let's dispatch that action. Sorry, not like this. Dispatch. I don't know who's slow, my computer or me. Okay, so so dispatch set credentials, which I'm auto importing, and we just need to spread across the response that we get from our backend. So res. Okay, so these are all the information that we get from backend, which we are eventually going to store in our local storage. All right, so that's done. And now also let's handle this is loading, and if there is any error from fetching any details from our backend. So we can also go ahead and copy paste this, okay, which we already did in the previous video. So in our previous video we have already done that in our order screen. So let's copy this and paste in here, not here, right below this. Okay, so if there's any error, then return with a toast message, say with whatever the error which we created in our backend by the custom error handler. And if there's any if there is loading, then we need to show the spinner, which I'm going to auto import. Okay, so everything looks good. And later we'll be dealing with the okay, so we have this is loading state. So let's go right below this form, and let's show the spinner, or right below this button. So let's say is updating, so that's what we renamed, and show the spinner. Okay, so that's done, and now let's finally test it out if everything is working fine. So have we missed anything except for the orders? No, right? So let's check it out. So we have an error here saying API slash order slash undefined. Actually, I'm making a wrong API call. So this is not get order details. So it is get user order details. Okay, get user order. So not details. So it's query. So let's auto import. So that's auto imported, and we no longer need this use get order details query. Okay, so I hope that works. Is another order, so another mistake. So this is saying not found. So if you go to our network tab, it's saying this is a cast error, which means that there is an object ID mismatching within our URL. So that is why it's complaining about this. So the problem is I forgot to populate this particular thing with the users. Okay, so we have already done this in a previous video also, to also add in the user details along with this order. So that's what we need to do. So populate the user, okay, along with the name and email, like that. Okay, so not a comma, we just need to give a white space between name and email. Okay, so that will go ahead and like send that in the form of a response. So maybe that should fix. And now let's have a look. Still there is error. So we get all of the user information that I try to debug. So let's go to a network tab, and let's refresh again, and still it says the same error, like saying object ID failed for this particular cast error. So the problem was I need to arrange these routes in order. So first comes the slash thing, and next comes is the ones with the after the slash, and finally at the last we need to provide these dynamic values which needs to be put at the last. Okay, so I took almost a day to figure this out, and I almost broke my head to figure out why am I getting that cast error. And I just tried to debug in every possible way, and finally found out that this has to be in order, and that is the reason why I was getting that error. Not a meaningful error, but something it needs to be explicit that the orders are not in, like, the routes are not in proper order. So something like that. So this is the next day I'm actually recording this video, which I finally found the solution. And even ChatGPT couldn't find give me a proper solution for this. So that is why I even tried to find out this value, and found out that this function wasn't even being called. uh, so maybe I just thought that was something wrong with this routes, and only then I figured out. So that's why it's good to make errors, so that you find the solution for it, and never try to repeat such kind of errors when you are building the next application. Okay, so that's done, and now let's check if everything is working. So if I refresh, you see everything works fine. So now let's move to the front end, and just test if our we are able to update the user details. Okay, so one final thing, we just need to add in a toast message saying that password was reset, or the profile was updated. Okay, so toast dot success, uh, updated user details, or you can just say updated profile. Okay, so now let's finally test it out. So let's go to our front end and give it a refresh. And now I'm just going to change um, the name from John Doe to just John Doe, and click on update profile. So seems like there was a problem. It's saying not found, API slash user slash update. We have actually defined it. I don't know why it's giving me this error. So we are getting not found because this should be a put request and not a post request. So I forgot about that. And now let's try it once again. So give it a refresh, and let's remove one of these and click update profile. There we go. Our profile is successfully updated, and when we go to our home screen and we see that the name is changed from John Doe to just John Doe. Alright, so we can also change the password. So it is 123456. I can just change it to 12345, and the same for confirm password. So if I just make an error, it says that passwords do not match. So let's put the right password and let's match the passwords and click on update profile. There we go, we have our profile updated, and now if I log out and log in with the updated password, that is 12345, and yeah, there we go, we are now successfully logged in. So that's working fine. And now let's finally list out all of the orders that John has made, okay, or here, or any user for that matter. So now let's go ahead and map through our user orders and put them inside the table. So I have left this blank. Remember that where's that within our table body. So we are going to loop through all the user orders. So user orders. So let's put an optional chaining if that doesn't exist. Dot map, and for every order we are going to return some data. Okay, so we are going to say table data, and also remember we need to sorry, not table data, first we need to add in the row, and remember we need to pass in the key prop. Okay, so order, this has a property called underscore id which is unique. And now let's close this tag, and within that we are going to uh, list the table data. Okay, and over there I'm going to give a class name, that is border, just a simple border. Okay, I'm not going into very deep styling. Okay, so just simple one, at least it should look good in the first place. So that's done, and let's close this, and let's display the order id first of all. So order dot underscore id. Okay, so now that let's duplicate this few more times, like 4 times. And next we are going to add a entry for created at field. Remember this is auto created by the timestamp when we create this, okay, by mongoose. So created at dot slice. Okay, so this will actually give, I'll just show you this later. Okay, so okay, I'll just show you what does this actually give, and then I'll do the slice operation. And next is I'm going to display the total price. Okay, so all these values pertains to these headings. Okay, so which needs to be in order. So finally the status of is delivered. Okay, so if it is delivered, then we are going to say yes, else no, like that. Okay, so that's done. Now let's have a look. All right, so looks good. Now there we go, we have two orders made by John. If you also have a look at the database, you see these are the two orders that John has placed. Okay, so and yeah, so these are the two orders, and we don't see any other users orders. Okay, so and you see that this is a very long form of date. Okay, so we just want to just display the date. Okay, and nothing else. So we can use a operator in JavaScript, that is a slice, to just get the first 10 characters. I guess it's first 10, right? So yeah, from 0 to 10. Yeah, so let's slice it to a character of 10. So that is from 0 to 10. Okay, so yeah, there you go. So we get the date which the user has ordered, that is today. And yeah, so and later this will be controlled by an admin. Okay, so if the product is delivered or not. So if there are no orders, let's simply display a small message saying there are no order items. So let's go back and right below this table we can say we can open our expression and just count the number of order items dot length. If that is equal to 0, then we are going to show a message which is in the form of a paragraph tag. Okay, so saying that no orders, like that. Okay, and also I'm going to give some class names, that is text gray with a 400 gradient, and also enlarging it, so text dash excel. And let's see how does it look. So actually we have order items for this particular user. So when we have no orders for any other user, we will show this message. So let's go ahead and log in with some other user. So I'm going for Steve. All right. Okay, so we see no orders. Okay, I can probably center this and give some margin to make it look good. So I'm going to make this text center and margin top of, let's say, 5. Okay, so looks good. So that's been handled, and yeah, I guess we are done for this video. So in the next video we are going to implement this payment button, which is to pay with Stripe, where we will be dealing with the sandbox account for Stripe. So we'll be adding all of our credentials there, and we'll be creating an account. So it's going to be an interesting one. So let's jump into the next video.